Hello and welcome. My name's Claire from Radiance Fruit Yoga, and I thought it'd be great to do a video on something really important. Actually, is one of our muscles called the psoas, which is the muscle that connects the upper part of the body to the legs, and it's also quite connected as well to the lower back. So I thought I'd do a video on this. It's a shorter practice today. So get yourselves comfy, sit down in an easy seated pose, whatever that means to you, and we're going to make a start. So just allowing the breath to settle and allowing whatever's happened so far today, just to let that go. And equally, if this is the beginning of the day, just letting go of your to-do lists, just putting them to one side for a moment or so. Okay, so let's work through the joints. Taking a breath in, tipping the head back, making sure you don't crunch into the neck. Exhale, chin to chest. So moving the head up and down. Just noticing how the neck feels. Is there any tension that's residing there? We're not judging at all in any way, we're just noticing what's there. Okay, bringing the head back to centre, we're going to look over and behind. So coming all the way round, taking the head from one side to the other. See if you can go a little bit further around as well each time. Just noticing that the spine started to get involved as well. So start to gently turn. Lovely, then bringing yourself back here into that central position. And we're going to take a good look around, so taking a nice big circle with the nose all the way around and down. You can imagine that perhaps there's a clock that's numbered all the way around, and you're following those numbers in one direction and then the opposite direction. Wonderful. Okay, so then we're going to bring the head back to centre, let the hands come down, have a really good scrunch up, bringing those shoulders as close to your ears as you can. Hold, pause, and then release. Letting that go. Inhaling. And exhale. Let's have a good roll as well. Really letting those shoulders roll. Going in one direction and then the other. Maybe bring the hands onto the chest, onto the shoulders. Now we're going to rotate round. Can't get my words out. Have a nice big rotate round, going in one direction and then the other. Lovely. So let's bring the hands down once again. Now we're going to come into what's called tap and twist. So as we inhale, we're going to reach up, let the fingertips tap, and as we exhale, coming round, bringing one hand to the knee, the other hand behind. Inhale, always coming back to centre when you're doing this. So always, always inhale to bring the hands up and exhale to twist. So what's actually happening is that we're actually activating the spine as well as working through the shoulders as well. So you might be feeling around about now, maybe your arms are starting to get tired. So we're going to do one more each side. 1, Inhale, exhale, tap, and then coming back to center. Okay, so now we're going to work through the spine a little bit more in a more extension and flexion. So I'm going to come off my blanket and pop that over to one side for a minute. So if you've had your legs crossed in a certain way, now would be a good time to release the cross and put it in a different way. Now I tend to have my feet where I've got the ankles in front of one another, but you don't have to do that. So you can actually just cross your legs normally if that feels much better for you. But for me, I just prefer to do it like this, and it's your practice, so you decide what works best for you. Okay, so we're going to be doing a seated cat-cow. So your in-breath is always going to be this lovely opening of the chest. So inhale here, exhale, pulling your belly button in towards your spine and roll back over the pelvis. So you're creating a C shape in the spine. Inhaling and exhaling. Coming all the way up back onto those sit bones and then kind of rolling back over the pelvis. And if you wanted to, you could take it as far as you want to with those hands. If you wanted to take them all the way back so that they tap, you can do. That's entirely up to you. Just depends on what your range of movement is. So I prefer just to keep them straight, but you might want to tap them completely behind. Lovely. Let's do one more inhale, one more exhale. And then just rest the hands. Just let that movement settle in the body completely. Lovely. Okay. So we're going to release out of this cross and then lie yourself down onto your mat. So just take a moment to appreciate that feeling of a supported spine. It really is so lovely just to feel that connection between the earth and the spine as it just supports you beautifully. So we're going to bring the feet and the legs together and send the palms downwards and a little bit out here. And we're going to see how it feels just to roll over one side to the other. Now a little handy tip here is if you find it a little bit on the uncomfortable side to do any kind of rolling over the lower back and pelvis, just grab yourself a blanket and just put that underneath so that you feel a little bit more supported. Okay, so I'm going to do this with a supported blanket, so letting the legs kind of roll over to one side, and we're noticing what's happening, what's being felt here, what you can feel activating. One side to the other, and then we're going to come back into the centre and just lift the feet off the floor and away for a minute. See how that feels, what activates in this moment, and then rolling from one side to the other, making sure that you're using the palms to help keep you grounded. Lovely. Okay, and then let your feet come down to rest. Just spend a moment here, just breathing. Okay, so let the feet walk a little way back into hip distance apart. And we're going to lift the right leg on the inhale, exhale, straighten that leg, pushing sole of the foot to the sky, bring it back in and then lowering down nice and slowly. Doing the same with the left leg, lifting, extending, lifting and releasing. And then we can do both, coming in, straightening out, bringing in and releasing down. So let's do one more on one side. And then same again, the other side. And then both. See if you can do this a little bit slower. Fantastic, and then just let everything rest. It's really important that you give your body a moment of stillness so that you can appreciate the action that's been taken, the feel of the energy moving around the body. It's just taking a moment here just to breathe. Okay, so we're going to move on and we're going to bring the right foot towards the top of the thigh. And you may want to just stay right here. You can stay stationary if you want to. This might be more than enough if you're feeling quite tight in the hip. If you feel you want to, you can lift the foot off the floor and you can hold it onto the back of that thigh, and again that might be more than enough. However, if you'd like to do something moving, you could actually use and engage the belly muscles to help lift the head. So the inhale will always be this relaxed position. So inhale, exhale, and inhale, relax. We're doing this 3 times if you're doing the moving one, or just 3 breaths if you're stationary. And unravel. Coming back to the other side now, so let that left foot come to the right. And again, deciding how you are. Remember that each side of the body is going to be completely different. We are not symmetrical as humans. So you might find that something's really tight on one side and not on the other. So inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Excellent, then let that go. Release out completely. I'm going to move my blanket actually out of the way. I just put that underneath my head just to support my neck a little. So I'm going to be coming into a bridge pose. So this can either be a moving bridge or a supported bridge or just a normal bridge. Today I'm going to do a supported bridge. So making sure your feet are hip distance apart, the heels are as close as you can get them so that you can actually almost touch them or touch them, and you have your block nearby. So hands down by the sides. As you inhale, we're going to just lift, 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 lift. Feeling those shoulder blades activating and sliding underneath the heart space. Grabbing hold of the block if you're using one. And we can place it just underneath so that you'll feel that flat part of the bone where the coccyx and the sacrum area is. So that should feel nice and supportive. And if you take a breath or two here, you may feel comfortable enough just to lift a little higher and take it to the next setting. You can of course take it to the higher setting, but that is quite high. I'm not going to do that today. So I'm just going to take it to the medium setting here and just breathing here. This is really, really good stretch for the psoas. So holding this stretch is really going to be a lot more useful than coming into a moving bridge. Just taking a nice few breaths here. Okay, so let's lift a little higher, taking another breath in. And on the exhale, rolling back down. I'm going to bring the knees into the chest. Lovely. Okay, so let's roll over onto one side to bring ourselves up. And we're going to be coming into a cat-cow. Making sure as well that you have put something underneath your knees. If you struggle with knees at all, it's a really useful way of just making sure they stay nice and comfortable. So I have fibromyalgia, so I do tend to struggle with the joints. So knees are particularly troublesome, wrists are particularly troublesome. So if you find that stacking weight down onto the wrists is in any way painful, please make sure that you take the wrists a little further away. So just going to draw those low ribs in and keep the gaze down. So as we inhale, carve a line with the nose up. Exhale, chin to chest. Inhale, coming back through. Keep following that pattern, breathing in as you look up. Exhale, chin to chest. Belly button to spine, opening out the shoulders, out the back. And you want to be aiming for around about 6 of these, but you can do as many as you like. It depends on how long you want the practice to be. I'm going to try and keep this as short as I possibly can. It's not going to be a full length session. Lovely. So I'm going to come out of this and I come back into my neutral pose of tabletop, and then we're going to do extended legs and arms. So if you find that your lower back is troublesome, I would suggest that rather than coming into the full pose, you just work with each leg instead. So I'm going to go right side first. So right side would bring the toes into action first and then lift the leg. Bring it through knee to nose and then release it down. Same with the other side. So make the toes come into contact first, lift, that's your in-breath, exhale, chin to chest, sorry, nose to knee, and then bringing it out. If you want to come into the full pose, then you're going to be extending the right leg out and the left arm out, bringing the opposite elbow to the knee, like that. So keeping on going in that direction. So do a few of these, 3 each side. If you, doesn't matter if you're doing the full extended one or just doing the legs. Okay, so 3 each side. And then we're going to let the blanket go. And then we're going to come down and into a baby cobra. So baby cobra, in meaning exactly baby cobra, we don't want to be overstretching the back, particularly if you have a troublesome back. If your lower back really doesn't like being overextended, then please be really, really careful. So you're bringing the hands down to the very top of the rib cage, bringing those elbows in, feet hip distance apart, relaxed on the mat, head down. You can also rest your head on something here, perhaps, you know, an eye pillow or a piece of rolled up blanket. So inhale, lifting, and there's just a small amount of extension there as you're lifting. So 3 of these. Okay, so then we're going to let the arms come down to plant, and then we're going to tuck the toes under, sending the hips back. Now it's up to you. What you could do is you could come into a child's pose here if you wanted to, or alternatively you could tuck the toes under and come into a downward facing dog. So we're pushing against those hands. Imagine that you're resisting them. lengthening through the spine. Don't worry about the heels if they're nowhere near the floor, don't worry. Soon you bend the knees really generously and keep a really long back and trying to keep the heels down. Remember, we're trying to create this lovely pyramid shape. So really tucking the back of the head in, lengthening through the spine, and lengthening through the hips as well. Maybe have a little pedal whilst you're here. Lovely, and then on your next breath out, we're going to lower down and have a little wrist rest. Have a little rotate round. Mine are doing lots of clicking today, so lots of wrist rotations required. And then we're going to come into a little bit of work with blocks. Now, hopefully you've got some blocks at home. If not, don't worry. You can use books, anything that will give you that little bit of height. But these yoga blocks, they're really quite cheap. You can buy them off Amazon or eBay. You can buy them in most sports shops, Decathlon. So they are really, really helpful for your practice. So you're going to place them at the top of the mat and bring your right leg forward first. And we're going to make sure there's enough distance so that you're feeling the stretch going through that left thigh. Remember to pad the knees as well. If you're anything like me, you have really dodgy knees, just make sure that you pad them out. Okay, and we're taking these blocks forward and starting to move the knee forward and backwards. We're stretching through these hip flexors. So nice and steady, working forwards and backwards, rotating around on that hip joint as well. It's really lovely for opening out the hips. I don't think I actually do a yoga practice without doing a little bit of hip work, because again, they tend to be quite troublesome. So have a nice good rotate round. Okay, so now we've kind of warmed through that joint a little bit. We're going to work so that the hands actually come into the left side of the foot. In fact, I'll turn around. That'll be easier. So I turn around, you'll see. So we're going to work. That left hand is going to peel up and come in and stretch up to the ceiling. So you can stay here if you want to. If you wanted to, you could actually really add a little something to the practice. If you feel strong enough, you can eventually lift the leg off the floor. This is again all about balance though. But feel free to just stay right on here. If this feels too much as well, feel free to bring it round the back rather than lifting up. Okay, so we're going to work our way out. So bring that arm down on the next breath out. Okay, and then we're going to work the other leg. So left foot forward, right leg back, and again just working through those hip flexors, working forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. Okay, so we're then going to take a nice big rotate round, go in one direction and then the other. Awesome. Okay, and then take those blocks away, bringing the hands onto the inside of that left foot, and then bringing the right hand up, coming into a twist. And again, same thing applies. If it feels too much, be bringing your hands up there. Bring your hand around the back Take a gaze up to the ceiling if that feels okay. So working with your own body. Remember, it will change as well. On different days, it will feel different. And then on the next breath out, we're going to release. Let that left foot come back. And then we're going to come down into child's pose. So you decide what kind of child's pose that is. It might be an extended child's pose. So you're bringing your hands forward, head down. Remember, you can always use the support of a block for your head. Or we're going to come into a traditional balasana and bring the knees together and kind of tuck yourself into a little ball and just rest here. Let that back soften, let it all smooth and relax here. Just spend a couple of breaths just relaxing. So I'll let you relax there while I just get what I need. Okay, one more breath in your child's pose and then we shall come out. Okay, so working your way out of child's pose, hopefully you'll have a bolster nearby or a block or a cushion, something that you can place in the middle of your mat. I'm using a bolster here, but you can use those other things as well. So we're going to turn so that we're facing away from the bolster or block and bring your feet onto the balls of the feet. We're kind of spreading the toes away from each other. So looking like a little bit of a squat pose and then coming down onto that bolster. So we're letting the feet come as flat as they will go, bringing the elbows in. And we're going to bring the hands together into Anjali Mudra. So letting those hands and elbows do the work. Let the hips open nice and gently with that breath. So this is actually taking a little bit of flexion now into the psoas. So you want to do 3 to 5 breaths here. And then we're going to come out nice and gently. And I'm going to just remove the bolster away and put it down at the end of the mat. And then we're going to come down into forward fold. So just let the feet come out, have a little squeeze of those knees and legs, just let everything come down, downward energy. Okay, so you can come now into a forward fold. So let the hands slide down the legs, coming down, and then just coming to as far as you feel you want to go here. We're not going to stay for ever such a long time because we're preparing for the next forward bend. So just taking a moment or two here, a few breaths. And then bringing yourself back up. Okay, so I'm going to show you a forward fold with a bit of a difference. So we're going to bring the left ankle in towards you first, the right ankle ahead. Okay, now this isn't going to feel nice for everybody, and if it doesn't feel nice for you, if it's too tight on the groin, then you can come into a different variation. So you could bring your feet together, maybe bring in some blocks to support the knees if that feels nice. Just work with your own body, whatever feels right for you. Okay, so the hands come down in front and then we're walking the hands forward, okay? So what we're aiming for is to feel that little bit of openness coming into the hips. You can actually use a bolster as well, it's really helpful. So you can actually roll the bolster in and just relax here. Maybe roll it away and stretch through the arms. There's loads you can do here. So just make the pose your own. I'm just spending a breath or two here. And I'm going to walk the way back and then simply swap over. So we're going to bring right ankle in and then left in front. And again, walking forwards, either just hands onto the mat or hands onto a bolster or blocks. And just make that breath really nice and slow. The aim here is to make that extension of the exhale so much longer. This helps just ease you into that pose. Okay, then we're going to work our way out, bringing ourselves back, and then we're going to come in to relax. So I would suggest a rolled up blanket or a bolster, bringing your pillow or blanket in to support the head, coming down. And the reason the bolster's there is because it allows the back to make contact with the earth. And you can rest your hands on your belly. And I invite you to spend at least 2 minutes here. If it's an early morning practice, I understand you wouldn't want to become too relaxed. So spend at least 2 minutes here, just going through the body, from the crown of the head all the way down. And just releasing any remaining tension that you can feel there. All the way down to the very tips of the toes. So I'm going to sign off for now, but you can stay here for as long as you want to. You can stay here, relax, and just let that practice settle into your body. And it's really important that you don't skip Shavasana. It's so, so important. This is where your nervous system shifts from one type to another. We're trying to aim here to get into your parasympathetic system. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to you joining me again. Take care, guys. Bye.